circa 1992. I had an approx 50-year-old lady come into the Kroger, where I worked in Georgia, and buy condoms, tampons, a cosmopolitan, beer, kitty litter, and those birthday cake candles that don't blow out when you blow on them. I joked, "Big night, hut," she responded, and people didn't really drop the F-bomb in suburban Atlanta back then. "You have no fucking idea, honey," I blushed. A crackhead came into my workplace once and tried to pay for a shopping cart. When Kmart went out of business, they marked stuff down 50%. I bought a shitload of Depends for my elderly relative. As luck would have it, they still had dozens of boxes of enemas. Husband uses them to orally hydrate cats. I can only imagine what other shoppers and the cashiers were thinking. I had an obviously high as a kite gentleman who came through my line once. Came heel-toeing it into my lane, trying very hard to appear sober. I was terribly fascinated by the various flavors of chapstick we had, and he was having the worst case of indecision. He would pick one up, stare at it for a couple minutes, shake his head, then grab another and go, "Whoa, pumpkin pie," then stare at that one, then he'd turn and say, "Hey boss, how are you doing, man?" I'd reply that I was fine, and he'd go back to being fascinated over something else in the lane. Then, a couple moments later, he asked me the same question. I got done ringing up his items, fortunately no alcohol, or I would have had to deny its sale. He had 26 individual bags of Cheetos. He cleaned out the supply on several lanes, a whole apple pie, a whole cherry pie, our largest tub of macaroni salad, with a plastic fork from the deli sitting on top of it, a tube of toothpaste, and 10 5-hour energy shots. Lord, I hoped he wasn't going to take them all at once. I eventually decided against the chapstick, and was lost in thought for another long moment, staring intently at the candy. All of a sudden he grabbed a Chamacolt, giggled, and set it gingerly on the belt like it was an egg. I rang it up, gave him the grand total, and he said, "Perfect, yes," then practically danced over to pay and then grab his bags. As he left, he turned and said over his shoulder, "You're awesome, bro," and heel-toed it out of the store. I love my job. I'm not a cashier anymore, but when I was there were some interesting interactions. The one that comes to mind is a guy came in drunk and tried to buy a single carrot. He must have gotten hungry while waiting in line, because he took a massive bite out of it. Then he didn't understand that we sold them by weight, and we were trying to figure out how to charge him for it when half of it was in his stomach. I worked as a cashier at a restaurant, and we had a regular. We called her Sour Cream Lady because every time she came in she would order 11 sides of sour cream with her food. Her face would always flush, but no matter what, she always got her 11 sides of sour cream. I totally judged it not to shame her, but this woman had to be nearing close to 400 pounds. I was judging if she would even survive the first serving of sour cream. I used to be one of those guys terrified to buy condoms. Like the cashier was going to say something or somehow judge me. Eventually, I realized most people are just trying to get through a day and don't give a fuck, and that I shouldn't be ashamed or afraid for having protected sex. That being said, I still avoid any elderly-looking female cashiers when buying sex-related stuff. I was a cashier years ago, and as I was ringing through a cart full, I picked up a bottle of warming lube. The label was wrinkled on the barcode, so I took some time to smooth it out so it would scan, and the guy thought I was examining it or something, and said in a raw wink-wink kind of voice, "It's for her," and pointed at the lady with him. "Oh, Kaya, thanks for the clarification. Thought you were gonna spread it on toast." I used to buy shit from Walmart in weird combinations just for something to do. My favorite was a gallon of mayonnaise, a 36-pack of flavored condoms, the biggest zucchini I could find, lube, whipped cream, and yeast infection cream. The cashier looked at me like she was disgusted, but couldn't hold in her curiosity. She asked me why I bought these particular items, and I told her I was going to talk to a man about buying a horse. It's the only time I've heard someone say brew as their only response to something. I used everything I bought except the mayo, which I gave to my mayo-loving father for his birthday. This was a while ago, which will become obvious shortly, but when I was a young checker at a grocery store, a dude comes through my line at around 5:30 p.m. on a Friday night. He's wearing a cheap three-piece suit, and I get the vibe that he's going on a date night with someone. Went items on the belt: 4 bottles of red wine, box of Trojans, bottle of Kai jelly, and a blank escape. I mean, maybe the blank escape had absolutely nothing to do with the other items, but also maybe Sextapino. I didn't judge him. If anything, I was jealous. He was about to have a better Friday night than I was. The only time I've wondered about people is when their total comes to $6.66, so they go grab something else. Worked at a gas station. Dead serious. This was before I was a cashier, but I was behind a guy at the register of a sporting goods store, and he bought duct tape, rope, a knife, and a gun. As he was checking out, he asked the lady at the register, "Do you guys carry body bags?" I kid you not. He asked for body bags. I was like 10 at the time and terrified. I later realized it was a sporting goods store, and he probably wanted them for like deer or something, but still. Condoms and yoo-hoos. Nothing like sipping yoo-hoo after some woo-hoo, I guess. Animositas a camigrator bitter. Was a cashier for 3 years. I don't give a shit what you buy. Just please don't say that it must be free, then. Joke. I die a little every time I hear that. I'm not going to judge you on your items. I'll judge you if you're being a dick during the transaction. I have never judged someone for what they bought, only on how they behave as a customer. Always be polite. If you don't want an item, give it to an employee instead of leaving it in a random spot. And you better have a good reason for asking for a manager, because I am the manager, and I don't have time for your nonsense. Also, if you are being rude to my staff, you will not get what you want. Not a combination, but a regular at my store comes in every week to buy half a dozen gallon jars of mayo. Yes, they make gallon jars of mayo. Yes, 6 of them. Yes, every week. No, I don't know why. Was a checker at Safeway for about 6 months circa 2003. I gave zero cholhuis what you buy. You could slap down condoms, some cucumbers, batteries, and anal lube, but all I'm thinking is, does this lie never fucking end? How long until I can go home? I can hear Brenda from customer service desk behind me whining about her damn divorce again. That'll be $41.73, please. Never remember you again. I remember the good customers, the ones I chatted with or were fun. The town I lived in was well above the average income. There was no shortage of people with some serious fuck you money around. A few households had personal chefs. We were the only major grocery chain around, so they pretty much had to shop with us. At least once a week each of them would come in to get $700, $1,000 worth of groceries. Tons of fresh vegan fruit, name brand everything, select meat cuts, the imported stuff, you name it. I was a fast checker, so often they would stand in my line, even if my line was longer. Struck up some conversations and got to know them. They were always so nice. They would tell me about their recipe and meal plans. I loved it, even though it made me so hungry. All of them loved their careers, and I envied that at the time. I now have a career I love. Worked at Whole Foods for 3 years. I almost never paid attention to someone's cart butte. One day, a woman purchased like 14 varieties of coffee and felt the need to tell me she was doing trial and error to determine the best coffee, and it could have just been a joke, but given the usual phone customer, I'm inclined to take her at her word. I asked a woman who regularly bought all of our cream cheese 10-2300 packs at a time at which she's using the cream cheese for once. Wasn't judging or anything, just curious. Turns out her family just seems to eat a lot of bread. This one evening, these 2 college-aged girls came through my lane, buying chocolates, condoms, and peanut butter. They both were dressed like they were going out clubbing, and neither of them looked happy. Judge. No treat to guess what you are doing with that combination of items, because I was bored. Absolutely. At my first job, Taco Bell, I definitely judged the people ordering 3 chili cheese burritos every day. The shit was made from yesterday's already questionable ground beef. I don't know why, but there was a lot of people who'd get 3 every day in some level. You've got to love yourself more than that. Presumably, I get judged for the massive amount of Popeye FBI, except I'm not fat, so maybe not. I'm actually getting it on behalf of a dying relative who just loves the stuff, and I figure why not? He won't live long enough to get diabetes or for his teeth to rot. Used to work in retail. I wasn't a cashier, but did backup cashiering sometimes. Honestly, I don't even have time to judge customers on their purchases, and there are way too many to keep track of them, so unless you are buying something truly unusual, I'm not gonna remember you at all. Speaking of truly unusual, though, I once had a customer buy like $80 worth of gummy vitamins. That was all he wanted. I don't know what his plans were, but I was certainly curious. No, I don't judge. Small town checker here. A while ago, but with customers I was friendly with, I would try to guess what they were cooking based on the ingredients on my belt. It was fun. I only did it with people I was friendly with. I judge people for how they act, but generally never judge anyone for their purchases. The exception might be a lady who had 3 credit cards decline before the 4th one went through on her $10 bottle of wine. I just feel that wine might not have been my own priority in that sort of financial situation. Former cashier. I never really judged anyone on what they bought, but the one that will stick with me is 38 $1 pregnancy tests. The customer said it's bad when you can't trust your daughter. I didn't even know how to respond. Let me have one of those porno magazines, large box of condoms, a bottle of Old Harper, a couple of those panty shields, and some illegal fireworksy, and one of those disposable enemas. Nah, make it 2. Not a cashier anymore. I very rarely judged what anyone bought. Most of the time I liked seeing what other people bought because it inspired me to try new things. I had some memorable customers that I still remember, like the very drunk French family who bought 10 pregnancy tests out of multiple years working at 3 different grocery stores. The only one I ever truly judged was a guy called Custard Man. Custard Man was about 500 pounds, always sweaty, and smelled like he'd never showered in his life. He came in every single day and bought a variety of things, but his daily grocery shop always included at least 5 packets of instant custard every day. Honestly, I barely pay attention. Deleted. Semi-related. The first time I purchased personal lube at the grocery store, I had to talk myself up a bit. Like they won't say anything, it'll be just another purchase. People buy this kind of stuff all the time. Lo and behold, the cashier holds up the lube and says, "What is this? I've never seen this before. What's it for?" I couldn't tell if she was taking the piss or genuinely curious, and I just kind glared at her. Turns out she thought it was a hair product, but yeah, it was like the nightmare scenario for 20-yo me. The only thing I recall thinking was of any note during my tenure as a cashier was an attractive young couple who bought 2 things, and 2 things only: carpet cleaner and a Fleet cinema. The cashier at Walmart did give me a funny look when I purchased a box of diapers, a bottle of Flintstones vitamins, wrinkle cream, and a box of Estroven. I noticed and told her, yes, I know it's weird, but I'm a premenopausal 40-something-year-old mom of toddler twins and a baby. I really want this to blow up because I feel it will be hilarious. I used to work at PetSmart as a cashier, and the animals people would buy weren't necessarily weird, but extremely disappointing: mixing fish that shouldn't be put together, 18 goldfish in a 5-gallon tank, etc. Shitty management said we couldn't deny the sale at our specific store for fish BS. They didn't give a shit. But anyway, this lady came in. She was a regular, and I would always ask about her cats. She had 3 or 4 older rescues. She was sweet, but very, very odd. As months went by, her cats sadly died, and she came in once, and as I rang her up and asked about her last cat. She said he had died. I didn't want to be nosy, but couldn't help it, and asked if the wet cat food she was buying was for a friend or for a rescue. And she said the food was actually for her, as she had picked all of it from our clearance rack. So it was cheaper than tuna from the grocery store because it was almost expired. She explained that if you spread it on crackers with salt and pepper, it was exactly the same as grocery store tuna. Probably not even the strangest experience I had working there. Pet owners are some of the worst kind of customers out there. Worst job experience of my life. I still have nightmares. Spent many years as a cashier and never saw anything as weird as the one time I was the customer and just happened to need Vaseline and some bungee cords. No, but legally I do have to be suspicious of everybody because I sell knives, bullets, and occasionally guns at my station. I once purchased car sealant for a leaky moonroof, a lighter, and a bra. Nice cashier, no problem. I chose electronic receipt, save paper and all. I had used a friend's rewards phone number though. She called when I got to the parking lot asking about it because of the emailed receipt. Generally, I didn't pay much attention when I cashiered. I did have people buying drink mixes for cocktails, soda, and steaks for a party with their food stamps. I likely wouldn't have paid any attention then, except that they were oddly bragging loudly that that was what it was for, as if anyone cared. So yeah, then I judged. Obligatory, not a cashier, but a couple of weeks ago, I bought toilet paper, car lubricant, and some condoms. So was a drugstore cashier and saw lots of strange combinations. I don't remember the people, just the things they both worst was the guy buying lots of preparation H and peanuts. He couldn't wait to get to the register before chomping away on those things. I just hope he chewed really well. And there was this one guy bought the store out of lube and even got kicked out of the store for arguing with the manager over whether or not we had more in the back. When I was a cashier, two giggling women plopped 6 huge tubs of ice cream and an enormous pack of toilet paper on the conveyor belt. They were whisper giggling. I wonder what she thinks. Tee hee hee. I just deadpanned that you are lactose intolerant. They just about dissolved in more laughing. I used to work at Walgreens and would generally just pretend I didn't notice what people had in their baskets. People are embarrassed about private things or anticipating you being embarrassed. If you show them you are calm and relaxed, they usually relax. Here's a pro tip: for you're ever buying something that's embarrassing, buy a birthday card with it. Saved me a lot of awkward conversation. Usually not the weirdest one was someone who bought nothing but $63 worth of store brand gelatin in about half a dozen flavors. I occasionally regret not asking. I didn't care when I was a cashier at a grocery store. The only thing that bothered me was when customers made my job hard. The people who want you to take just one more customer even though you're clearly closed. Dude, I just want to go home. People who refuse to put their groceries on the conveyor and hand them to you one at a time. But then that's sad a lot because it's usually because they can't afford all of the groceries and are trying to choose what to get. People who get angry with you because something rung up wrong. I ain't here stealing your money. I don't get to pocket the overcharge. But I also can't just take your word for it, Miss Lee, though. I was just dead inside. It's a very repetitive job that is actually pretty exhausting. I once bought $257 worth of laxatives, anti-diarrheal holes, and other stomach remedies at the most ghetto Rite Aid there is for hundreds of miles. It was for work market research, and after a minute of running the stuff over the scanner, the cashier finally noticed and gave me a speculative look. I just said, "My stomach really hurts." She didn't say a word. I'm so zombied out from doing the same thing for hours that if someone came up with a cucumber and condoms, I wouldn't put 2 and 2 together. Judge, no. Notice, yes. I worked in a grocery store during high school and college. I could almost tell you what people would have in their carts before they walked up. It's been 20 years, and I still remember some of y'all. Not really, usually too busy trying to find the barcode. Although one time, someone bought 2 items which made me very concerned for someone. They were a sorry for your loss card and a thing of rat poison. The paid by cash.